you pregnant and alone? You have options. The Sanctuary of Hope offers expectant mothers ages 12 to 22 a place to live, medical care, counseling, continued education, and options to raise your baby in a loving environment or help you with adoption. We want to help provide you and your baby with a bright future. Call us or email us today and let's walk through this together. 210-499-1554 or sohcares.org. All inquiries are confidential.
The Dear Agency specializes in helping you understand your coverage before you need it. We offer all lines of personal and commercial insurance, including auto, home, and life. Contact Dawn Deere at 210-507-2169 and visit us at 7529 North Loop 1604 in Live Oak, Texas, or farmersagent.com/ddeer.
Hey, welcome to Iron Refocus Radio. We are here once again, and man, I have my best friends, John Stevens and B. Michele. Man, they are rocking it with Iron Refocus Radio. They are the official bonus team. We are doing big things. I mean, COVID is trying to make everything mess up, man, but I'm telling you, we're not just focused on trying to help you, the entrepreneur. We're helping every individual who have a big dream, who want to accomplish their goals. I'm telling you, you want to tune in every time we have them on the show. So I want to say what's up to y'all. How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Man, life is good, man. So we're going to have a big topic today. And B. Michele, she kind of gave us a little preview in the green room. So I'm going to let her do the honors. And, hey, tell us what we're going to be talking about, man.
Well, I thought that it would be very fitting because of where we are in our current climate to talk about being of service. And as an entrepreneur, you are there. That's all you are there to do when you start a business, is to be of service in some type of way, shape, or form, whether it's through a product or an actual service that you offer. Yeah. You are there to serve a specific community. But I also think in our personal life, God gave everybody a gift. And sometimes, although you may not know what your gift is, you may need to spend some time really searching and figuring out what is your gift. What do you have to give back to the universe, to the world, people? So figuring out what that is, and then figuring out how you can really take that gift and be of service to your community, to your family members. And I just think that sometimes even in our regular jobs, I think if we looked at it from that capacity, because rent is always due. And I think sometimes we forget that we have to pay rent. And in a more metaphorically speaking, rent on this earth. I think our rent on this earth is through service.
That's true.
And being a people. And no matter, I mean, that looks a lot of different ways. There's no way to shape how that looks. But I think if we kind of focus more from a service standpoint, I think that would also help us de-escalate, and we might not feel so exhausted by even things that's happening right now, and going back to finding the good and humanity in people. Because I think sometimes, like, you can teach it, but at certain ages, like, you can't really teach a person. You shouldn't have to teach a person how to just be normal, how to just treat people properly. Mm-hmm. You know? Oh, yeah. I think that's, especially, you know, where we are, I think we focus on really being of service and helping. I think that would take a lot of, I mean, we'd have way less problems. Yeah. Not that's the cure all to one specific thing, but I think it's a start in how we just interact with each other. True. From being of service and helping.
Yeah. What about you, John? I totally agree. And while she was talking, I'm kind of a nerd. So I wanted to look up the word service, and this is the Merriam-Webster definition. Has several, but one that stood out to me is the contribution to the welfare of others. Mm-hmm. And so, like, talking about service and with everything that's going on, I would totally agree with what B. Michele is saying. Like, we at some point have to consider what we do as service, you know. And I'm not knocking the word hustle. That word or that culture has kind of shifted where we are as a people to say, hey, you know, I'm tired of just surviving. Let me go out and do my thing. But I think now at the forefront with everything that's going on now, I think service really has to be that first filter that we consider when we do everything. From selling candles to, doing a podcast to food drives. I mean, everything. Consider the welfare of others. Make that contribution to bettering somebody's life. That service. Really looking at yourself and saying, hey, I know what it took for me to get to where I am, and I see somebody who has less than, where I am. How can I help them?
Yeah.
That, to me, that's service.
Yeah, because service, to both of y'all's point, service is that one special thing that we all can do. Yes. I mean, service is not something you have to be this age and that age to do something. You can do anything that is positive for your community. And it doesn't have to be something where you just get permission from someone. No, it's something you have the power to do yourself. You have the power to make someone feel better about themselves or have a better day. Like you have the power to set the tone of the whole atmosphere. What you do and what you don't do, that makes a big difference. Whether you're speaking up or you're not speaking up, being silent, that's still making a choice.
That's right.
You're right about that. And I think, and this is why I think that sometimes I'm always the person, stay in your lane. But I think even when you're in your lane, figuring out how you can also be in your lane, but also whatever service or whatever you feel was volunteer. Honestly, I think a lot of times we haven't really tapped in, like really, really tapped into who we are. What are we good at? What is our purpose, our mission? Like, I think definitely during quarantine, there was plenty of time for that, for sure. But I think it's always an ongoing thing. Yes. But you really got to tap in and figure out, like, okay, what is my purpose? Because I will honestly say, like, I get inundated. Like, right now, we got a lot of events going on and just work-related. But you do kind of have to figure out that time of day, plug in for that hour, and really just tap in to making sure that you're still walking in your purpose. And if you haven't what your purpose is, take time to start tapping in and figure out what type of life do you want to have, what type of legacy. At the end of the day, I put up a post maybe about 4 or 5 days ago. I put up a post on Facebook and said, in 5, 10, or 20 years, when you talk about this, are you going to say I heard or I helped? How are you going to tell your story? Is it going to start with I heard what had happened was
telephone game?
Yeah.
Because we decide, are we going to hear it secondhand, or are we going to be there on the front lines to help? And the front lines don't necessarily mean out protesting per se in the street, but if that's what front lines is for you, then be out there. Front lines could be making sure that you're telling people to vote. Front lines could that you could be out here helping make them phone calls to your city council people, your state senators. That's also front line.
Somebody preaching right now.
I think from a standpoint, there's so many things that can be done.
Yeah.
You can use your voice and your gift, but it's important that you tap in and figure out what that is and how do you want people to remember you and what legacy do you, and not saying legacy from a grand scale, but even from your community, your family, even in your family, what legacy what do you want your nieces and nephews, if you don't have kids, or your kids to say, man, in 2020, my aunt or my uncle, my father, my mother did X, Y, and Z. So in 20 years, when they looking at these pictures of us, out there, be like, man, that's my uncle, or that's my aunt, or that's my mom. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I think we just have to figure out, do we want to start the conversation with I heard or I helped?
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and that's such a pivotal question for people to ask themselves, especially now, man, because there's so much that's being said, and if you're not really sure about who you are and what you want to do and how you want to contribute, you can kind of easily be swayed. We see, our peers, protesting and, kind of turning up a little bit. But you really don't see a lot of us,
right.
at the state Senate, having these meetings and making these calls. And I'm not saying that, we have to be out here doing this or be out here doing this. But to be Michelle's point, you really have to do some soul searching to really find out, okay, what do I have to offer? And it may not be the norm. It may you might not be the one to go downtown and protest. You might not be the one to go tell people to register to vote. You might not be the one to be at the Senate and making all these calls to all these representatives. but you could be the one to go to your school or talk to your nieces and nephews or your kids to say, hey, this world is crazy, but let me tell you what we can do, how I can pass this information, pass this wisdom to you. And even at that's again, back to Michele, the legacy aspect of it. You know, there's a lot of things that we heard when we were coming up that we thought we would never see. Right. And here we are in 2020 witnessing this stuff firsthand. And so the things that our parents and our grandparents and our aunts and uncles shared with us about how they came against racism in their time has helped us look at what we're going through right now. You know, and even that is a service.
Yeah. And to both y'all's points, because what we're doing right now is good. Because sometimes, I mean, I find myself, I just turn off the news, man. I have so much enoughness of the news. And it's like, to John's point, if you can just put yourself in the community yourself, like start with your neighborhood, start with your own circle of influence and set the tone. Because when you set the tone and you say, hey, everybody, what you need? I got your back. Oh, you going to do this? You going to start this up? Or are you going to be trying to do this? Let's do it. Because it's a lot of yapping. Right. It's a lot of this side and that side. It's a lot of my point and your point, but there's not that connection. There's not that, okay, let's put some action to our words and not just say some stuff that makes people, oh, wow. Nah, forget that. Let's make things happen.
Yeah, because right now we're in the all hands on deck season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In all hands on deck season. Like, and we're definitely, look, we are no longer in turn the other cheek season, but we are definitely in all hands on deck season, for sure. And all hands on deck really mean all hands on deck. Yeah. And that means finding out where you can serve at best, how you can best help bring about change and solutions to the problems. And it was so funny. One of our local young ministers here in San Antonio had put up a post about having a conversation with non-Black ministers about race. And I got a little stirred up and I couldn't help myself. So I had to comment. I said, well, and I really truly believe this. I said, well, although having that conversation with non-Black personnel and people is cool, but I think we need to have that conversation with us first. Like from a leadership perspective.
Right.
So I'm just saying from a leadership perspective.
Yeah.
I'm all for it because it's happening tomorrow. I don't know if y'all, I'll share the flyer with you guys. You may already know about it, but it's so from a leadership perspective, where y'all been?
Man, I can't agree more. I think what you just said, I think people need to really pay attention to because, oops.
No, I was just saying there's been crickets from the pastoral religious end.
Yeah.
I know San Antonio has been crickets. Mm. So I'm saying this city definitely needs that leadership, like for real, from people to bring us together and from a standpoint of also having conversations with the people that's being impacted as well before we kind of go out, like rally us up, like bring us in the show up so we can show up as a unit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, so it was funny because he responded was like, well, it's open to everybody. Come on. Like, well, send me, hey, if I can be there, I'll be there, but I definitely will help support and share the flyer. But I also, although what he's doing is a great thing and it is being of service, but I think also we also have to be intentional. So we got to go back to that word. You don't just be out here doing any and everything. Be intentional about what it is you're doing to get the ultimate impact and not just out here, bandwagoning it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a very key thing, and then, like I said, there's so much going on and it's easy to get swayed because you see somebody, turning up and, protesting and doing all this other stuff. But you touched on something and I've been feeling this way for a long time. Nobody is really rallying us together because there's some things that we have to get together within our own community.
Yes.
If we just being honest, there's some issues that keep us from really uniting. And so I'm celebrating the fact that, you know, we as a people in the social eye are banding together to come against some things that we've been dealing with for years. But it really takes it really takes a sincere effort and sincere people who are really willing to lay it all out on the table and say, hey, me as a black man, I don't have my stuff together, but I want to get that behind me so I can move forward to help push change and unity in my community.
Yeah. Right. Because if you're not careful, like I said, I got to the point where I'm not even going to bother watching the news because it's the same script. It's the same discussion. It's the same circle. It's the same process. And before you know it, everyone forgets and everybody goes back to being comfortable. And I'm not trying to round nobody up. I'm just saying, to both John and B. Michelle's point, you got to come to the point where you say, okay, what can I do? And I think people get confused with saying they think they need to do something epic, something big. No. It could be something very small where you just do something with your friends, right? And then before you know it, people start watching. They want to join, and they want to join the movement, and they want to join the whole bringing unity, because unity is an interesting word. Unity is something that people like to think about, but are we really moving towards it? Because there's a difference of thinking about positive, you know, whatever you want to call it, visions, or yes, one day, or I have a dream. It's easy to think about that and feel good whenever something happens. But it has to get to the point where you move beyond thinking about those quotes and you just say, okay, what can we do? Like what we're doing right now, this podcast that you're listening to, they're taking time out of their busy schedule to talk about things that are important to who? You that's listening. I'm sorry, I raised my voice a little bit, but you that's listening. It's so important that you pay attention to what we're talking about, because what John is doing, what B. Michele is doing, they are not talking. They are doing. And that's all I got to say right now.
I think, honestly, sometimes I think it's one of those outside looking in. Advocating for people is hard.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a whole job, okay? Being out there trying to advocate for somebody that advocates for business owners on a daily basis. That's normally my advocacy lane, is making sure that businesses are getting funding, we're in the right place, that we have our business together. So through the whole COVID thing, that's been my platform, is just helping advocate for small businesses and making sure that they're taking advantage of all these opportunities to be able to grow and have sustainability. And it's the same thing when you're advocating for people. So even as a teacher, I spent 17 years advocating for children. Advocacy is hard. Being of service is not an easy thing, but you do it, and you put your mark down, and whatever little small thing that is. If it's just watching your neighbor's kids for a little while, maybe they can't afford the babysitter. You know, ain't no telling when these kids are going back to school. now
yeah.
So it also starts in your community. It starts in your family. Being of service, you don't, like you said, don't have to be a grandiose thing. It can start right there in your four walls, or in the house next to you, and all of those things. Just moving the needle. And so I think sometimes we just have to realize that we owe that to the universe and to the world, to be of service. On your job, in your personal life, in your business, you know, is that personal interaction and how you interact with people. It really goes a long way. It's like, even in branding, there's a saying that people will forget what you said, but they never forget how you made them feel. When you do something, when you have service, that's gratitude, and people typically will have gratitude and be of thanks. But I do want to say one thing before we have to go. History serves a lot of purposes. Number one, we can look back and see how far we've come, but it also lets us see lessons. But it also lets us see how far maybe we have come from where we really when we were on the right path, and maybe where we veered off. And I only say that from a standpoint of, especially from the church standpoint, where that's where the leadership used to come from.
Yeah.
From the pulpit. That's what rallied people in 64 and 65 and 55, all the boycotts, all the civil rights, all the voting. It really came from from the pulpit and from their religious standpoint on both sides. So I think that's the element of history that we probably need to get back to. It's okay to go back to some of the things that worked well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's up to us. I mean, hey, especially in this city, it's up to us to really pull our people out. One thing I do know, when that pastor or that leadership that he speak or she speak, y'all move. And no.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that's something that was very, again, I'm using the word pivotal, because the platform and the respect from the man of God or the house of God, people looked at that as, oh my God, we need to stop what we're doing. We need to do, let's listen, let's tune in, because we revere this person or this platform. And I think a lot of, and we're not going to talk too much about this, but I think a lot of that from the 50s to 60s all the way up until present, I think a lot of that respect has been lost, and it has nothing to do with the people. I think there's some issues within the church, because the church has not really spoken up in the past 30, 40 years about these kind of issues. Back then, it was normal to walk into Sunday service and hear the preacher talking about racism, because it was so prevalent in their time, and they were passionate about that. We've had a number of things to come in and out of the church in the past 40 years. And that, what B. Michelle's talking about, has been lost in translation. And now that we're back here, history has kind of repeated itself almost. And we're back dealing with these racial injustices and so many other things that come against people that look like us. Now is the time for the pastors to put down all the other stuff. You sow a seed of $50, God gonna bless you with 505. They put all that stuff down. We're blessed to be alive. We're blessed to, even in this quarantine season, but I ain't gonna talk about all that. We need to get back to that, because one, not only does it unite the people in the community, it gives us the chance to put down our airs, put down our egos, and really come together for the sake of unity, and even furthermore, to further the kingdom. Yes. That's all the kingdom is about. The kingdom is about service.
Yep.
Boom.
I'm gonna be
Man, boom.
We might have to revisit this. I hate I got to go. But we definitely revisit, because you're right. The kingdom is about service, and that is the whole point. And so from that leadership, from the pulpit, I'm saying pulpit meaning leadership, from that standpoint, that is what should be disseminated.
Yes.
That message is what should be disseminated every Sunday, about service, and how service in a religious aspect and a spiritual aspect, as well as actual real service in your home, in your community.
Yes.
That's what it's about. And as you be a servant leader, and as you be a servant to God and a servant in your community, it all comes full circle. So I really do feel like that message needs to be more prevalent, and from a servant, being a servant to God, but as a servant in your community as well.
That's it.
So I do feel like we need to talk about this, because it's really a great topic for maybe people to, and then hopefully will help even bring out some leadership, some leaders in our community to really kind of take a stand, because especially in San Antonio, it's wild, and it's just people, it's just scattered everywhere. No real cohesiveness.
Right. You're right.
Discuss. But maybe we can talk about, I'm pretty sure right now we can schedule another session in a week or so or whatever, to really, because I think it's a great point. And John, with you being immersed in that life, you'll be a great person to kind of help put that out there and plant those seeds, with you being in this space and being respected in that space. Not to say that the average person shouldn't, but you're in a position to where you can help guide that conversation.
I'm open to it. I mean, because that's something I'm very passionate about, and I know we got to wrap up, but yeah, I'm down.
And what I would say to that is, I just talked to someone about this. When the person becomes more louder than the message, then that's where everything becomes noise, because we get in our own way. And if you're not careful, if that message is not driving you and driving the community, then like I always say, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, what are you really doing?
That is true. Guys, I'm going to have to sign out real quick, but definitely you guys continue the conversation. I'll be listening, and hopefully next time we get together it'll be a little bit longer so we can also talk about solutions and really set something in place to really bring people together from this platform, because I think it's important to also talk about solutions as we talk about the current happenings and figure out what we can do to do our part.
That's it, man. Well, B. Michele, man, I know you're going to be doing your thing, so keep us up to date. Once again, man, we're going to get out of here. We appreciate y'all listening to R&B Focus Radio. This is the official bonus team, John Stevens and B. Michele. Real quick, I know y'all got to go, but drop your social media.
Coach B. Michele, all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Coach B. B space Michele with 1 L, and then Instagram is all together, Coach B. Michele.
PhilFree Music on Instagram, LinkedIn, SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, PhilFree Music Co.
There you go. Like we say on every single show on R&B Focus Radio, keep God first, stay focused, and peace.
Hi, San Antonio. Need a barber? Visit our good friend Rico Rodriguez, the owner of Rockefeller's Barbershop in San Antonio, Texas, 1733 Babcock Road, and book your appointment today by calling 210-782-5188.